Hello and welcome to Georgies G10 show on frontrow.ie.I. Tonight we have a big interview with Frankie Sheehan coming up later on in the show. But first tonight I'm joined by our guests. It's our own James Clancy from frontrow.ie. Welcome, James.
Thanks, Rod.
And also tonight we have Kevin Healy from Cork City. We've had a lot of complaints last week that there wasn't any League of Ireland supporters with us. So tonight we brought one of the men that Cork City has built upon, Kevin Healy.
Hi, George.
Welcome to the show, lads. One of the first things we're going to speak about tonight, I'm going to come to you, Kevin, is the Irish national squad. Yeah. To me, it looks like made up of championship players. What do you think of that?
It probably looks like that because it is. They may not be playing in the championship, but it's that level. There's
10 League of Ireland or 10 championship players, and then there's OD from Toronto.
Yeah, it's. You could also say, like, are the players there to be picked? You know, that's the level they're at the moment. They're not coming through. It's not necessarily Trapattoni's fault. It needs to go back. It needs to be worked out at under 10s, under 11s. The grassroots needs to be kicked in. You know, it's Germans did it, Spain did it, and look at the effects it had.
Exactly, I have to agree with that point there, Kevin. Like, I mean, I'd never be the biggest fan of Trapattoni, but like, I mean, you know, you look at the grassroots level of football that's in Ireland. I mean, it's just not really, it isn't really a proper setup there. Like, I mean, if you just take a look at how many, you know, when was the last time an Irish player came through the academy at we'll say a big club in England, like we'll say would have been Niall Quinn at Arsenal in the 80s, or at Liverpool it would have been Steve Staunton, or at Manchester United would have been John O'Shea. That would have come through the academy to make a first team appearance with any of those clubs. And like, I mean, these grandiose gestures of paying millions to Trapattoni is all well and good, but like, you need to be investing it further down the food chain. You know, that's just my opinion. Like,
if you have any points on this tonight, you can get us at fecttv.com, on the Twitter and on our Facebook. It's one of those things, lads. Is it going to get stronger in the championship? Or in the international arena for Ireland, or are we going to be constantly underachieving with championship players these days?
Well, my opinion is like, I mean, as long as the structures remain the way they are, then I mean the team would be kind of going nowhere fast. Like, I mean, you know, you employ a manager like Trapattoni, fair enough, he's got a brilliant CV and whatever, but I mean, he can't even speak the same language as the players. I mean, to me, that doesn't make any sense, you know.
Conor Salmon's in the squad, Anthony Pilkington and Henderson. Conor's coming from the League of Ireland. A lot of League of Ireland players in there now, so it's probably a good base for the League of Ireland players, because there seem to be many of them getting in with Doyle or Long. Conor now, you've got who else have you got? You've got Myler, yeah, Kyo.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's giving the league more exposure, you know, and more chance of someone coming over and throwing a bit of money there, like, you know, and saying take this fella, because realistically that's what the goal is more often than not, is to get over the water. So we might as well make the money from it and get as much as we can out of it. A
big talking point, Shay Given wants to come back. I know we're hearing that Duffs wants to come back. James?
I suppose I would certainly welcome Duffer back. He's been a great servant to the national team, and he's had a brilliant season this season in the Premier League. But Shay Given is also, don't get me wrong, he's been fantastic for Ireland, but to be honest, I think his time has come and gone. Like, I mean, he's on the bench at Villa, and I suppose fair enough, his Westwood, first choice Ireland keeper at the moment, he's on the bench at Sunderland as well. But you know, Westwood is a younger man, as I said. Given is 36, nearly 37 now. I think Given's time is gone. I think he retired for a reason. I think it was a good time to go.
So, looking at other things that are happening with the Irish squad, how do you feel Trapattoni has it? He's taking a lot of stick, and now all of a sudden, you know, they're kind of laying off him. He seems to be looking at the players now rather than before. They're saying he wasn't looking at the players.
Yeah, I suppose that's a fair point. But I mean, when a man is 4 years into his contract and he's meeting with the chief executive, being told you need to start going to games, you need to start upping your performance, is that really a good sign? And like, I mean, as I said before, he can't speak the same language as the players. Like, I've seen him at training in Malahide with the Irish players, and all these brilliant gestures and all this. Half of me often thinks, I mean, are these gestures for the cameras? Because the players don't know what he's saying, and it's like, is he really going to start learning the language in the last year of his contract, which it is the last year of his contract, unless some miracle happens and we get to the World Cup? Is he really going to suddenly start learning English? I personally think no.
If you have any points tonight, you can get us on the Twitter at FeckTV and on our Facebook page as well. We had one on this point from Kevin77. He said, promoted teams from the Championship been doing better in the Premiership in recent years, e.g. Stoke, Norwich and Swansea. Maybe the standard in the Championship is a bit better than we assume.
Oh, I agree totally. Like, I mean, I would think that certainly the top half or the top quarter of the Championship, like, I mean, I think any team that's in there, like, especially with the budget that they have with the likes of Leicester or the likes of any of these teams, they would be competitive in the lower half of the Premier League. I strongly believe. But at the same time, like, we say the Premier League, it's divided into, in my opinion, it's divided into two or three different leagues. Like, I mean, you've got the guys top 4, 5, 6 maybe that are going to be challenging for Europe and Champions League, and there's a mid-table guys, and then all the rest are just scrapping to try to stay in the league, you know.
How about you, Kev? Think he has a point?
Like, the one thing you know about these Championship players, they're going to have fight in them, because in some ways it's harder to get out of the Championship than it is to stay in the Premiership. Like, it's a dog fight, so they're going to have a bit of heart in them, and that's always good, you know.
A lot of League of Ireland players now, are you happy to see that, following the League of Ireland down through the years?
Yeah, it's great. It can only mean good things for the league, and, you know, in other ways, sell-on clauses, things like that, you know, getting the players more exposure, hopefully bringing more scouts over to the league, picking up a few players and getting the club some more money.
We had a little chat last week about maybe players being looked after a little bit more in the League of Ireland. A lot of fans kind of had a negative reaction, saying they should have got more money, or they got a lot of money 4 or 5 years ago, they don't deserve to get it now, and this kind of stuff. Would you agree with that, coming from a supporter's point of view?
I don't think it's necessarily that they do or they don't deserve it. It's just not there. Like, the money isn't there for them to get. So if we want to have a league, a sustainable league, then the players who want to play here need to accept that the money's just not there for them.
I don't know, I myself, to be honest, like, I mean, obviously you're talking about, say, when you were playing, like, you would say 5, 6 years ago, like, and the guys were getting these very big, sizable contracts, like, and even guys were maybe, we say, guys that maybe they might have been getting a game at a Championship club in England, coming over to Ireland, playing the League of Ireland would have been a very good option for them, and they would have been well rewarded for it, and you hear fans cribbing about that. I'm like, you know, I mean, a player is going to accept an offer. It's not like he's going to refuse a contract. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, we say, you know, David Beckham, he's offered 25 million a year. He was people cribbing about it. You're not going to turn down, as a player, you're not going to turn down an offer, like, you know.
Yeah, no, fair enough. One of the League of Ireland players that's going to get called up for the first time is Conor Salmon, Derry player. He's done really well in his career, hasn't he? So, getting to the places that he has got to with Derby and with Wigan in the last couple of years.
Yeah, good player, and it's good to see, as I said, it's good to see him called up.
I never seen a common Kev playing against him. All the times I played against him, I could never see him being a Premiership player. I would have found it very hard playing against him. I used to think he wasn't the greatest, but looking at him now, he's really done well for himself.
I think so. Sorry, I think he's really an example of perspiration over inspiration. As in, I'd agree with you totally. Like, he's certainly not the most naturally talented of players, but I mean, he's really has kind of grafted away, like, and he's certainly reaped the rewards, you know.
Coming up tonight also, we have a big interview with Frankie Sheehan. He's comparing O'Gara to Sexton and telling us some great stories over the weekend in the Heineken Cup. So stay tuned for that in a little while. Also tonight I would like to speak about, it's a real sad story at the minute, Michael Johnson, the former Manchester City player, who looks like he's going to have to retire at 24. He's had a few problems with his weight and a few mental illnesses as well. So it's a sad story. I know you wrote a few things about it this week. James, I disagreed a lot with a lot of it, but what was your point you were trying to get across?
I kind of have various opinions about it. Like, I mean, I think if you're a guy who will say that's gone over from Ireland to England, you got a contract with whatever club, you're going to be training, what, 2 to 3 hours a day, you get a lot of money, you're going to be pretty well off. You have pretty much your entire afternoon and evening from maybe, what, 1 or 2 in the afternoon is going to be totally free. It's going to be like, what are you going to do with your time? You're going to play PlayStation, you're going to drink, do you know what I mean? You know, there aren't going to be many avenues for you. But this guy was from Manchester. He's playing for Manchester City. I'm pretty sure he would have had a bit of a network there. Like, he could have, you know, he had people that he could have relied on. I don't know. I think he's an example of a guy that he's kind of blown it, if you ask me. I think there's an element of sympathy, yeah, fair enough. But at the same time, I think he should have had a bit more cop on. You know, that's just kind of my opinion.
Point of view, Kev?
I think it's very easy to fall through the gaps when you have a lot of injuries. You know, realistically, you're useless to the club when you have long-term injuries. So, as you said, James, a lot of them end up drinking and stuff, and when you don't have to go in the next day for training, again, it becomes a lot easier. It's sad, but, you know, 40, as we said, 40 grand a week might have taken the sting out of it for the last 2 years.
He's only 24, surely he can still build his career again if he wanted to, could he?
As a footballer?
I think so, yeah. He obviously has a natural gift. Not, you know, it's just started being wasted for a few years, or he just can't struggle to get over, you know, things in his life he just can't cope with. But surely if he's had it once, he can get it back again.
Possibly, but I mean, you know, I would personally think that, you know, you lose a couple of years, and like, I mean, his weight has ballooned so much now that I would think, you know, certainly he's not going to be, I certainly wouldn't see him as a big time Premier League Championship footballer, maybe something considerably below that, or semi-professional, but not anything big time. That's just my opinion. Whether he still has motivation or not is another thing. Like, and I don't know, like, if you ask me, he's obviously at this stage, he's obviously has a lot of kind of, you know, mental problems, and there was guys stopping him in a takeaway saying, oh, look at this guy, like his cheeks are kind of out to here, and oh, look at this guy, and take photos of him and kind of almost mocking him. Comes a point where that kind of gets to you, do you know what I mean? And I don't know, it depends on how strong mentally he is as well, to a large extent.
Yeah. Well, we do wish him all the best, whatever he does. Michael Johnson's, it's obviously a tough time for him. One of the mad stories again in the Premiership comes up with another sack in, with Nigel Atkins sacking at Southampton.
Oh, it's just madness. Like, I mean, he's been with the club 2.5 seasons. His first 2 seasons in charge, he got the club promotion 2 seasons in a row from League One to the Premier League. They're sitting 15th in the Premier League. They've lost 2 games in the last 12. Their last game was a 2-2 draw with Chelsea. I mean, what more does the chairman want?
It's crazy, isn't it, Kevin?
Ridiculous. Like, he had them playing really good football. Not, you know, they may not have been winning. They were getting good results. They were playing nice football. They were kind of like the Swansea of this season, you know, playing the ball on the ground, nice young team as well. And I couldn't believe it when I heard it the other day. It was just crazy. It's
a big game for him tonight, actually. We might try to get a score there in the next 10 or 20 minutes and see how the game is going. What about your team? Your English team, I should say. Tottenham won each yesterday at Man United.
Disappointing going on the game. I know a lot of United fans would disagree with that, but if you look at the stats, 60% possession. United had 2 shots, which neither of were on target in the second half. We dominated them in the second half, as far as I can see, anyway.
United should have had a penalty to go 2-0 up, shouldn't they?
It's about time they got a taste of their own medicine, you know.
Stephen Corker, what do you think? When I played with Corker at Yeovil, he made his debut. With myself, actually, we made our debuts for Yeovil the same day.
Shaping up to be a very nice player.
I said that when he was 17 he'd be the new Rio Ferdinand, you know.
He got a nice bit of experience, got Premier League experience last year. He was on loan at Swansea, and he's not been thrown in too much either this season, you know. He's kind of in and out, but he's looking very good. What
about Chelsea? Big win at Arsenal. Arsenal are really struggling, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think Arsene Wenger has gotten some stick this season. I think earlier in the season it was kind of rumoured that he might be getting the sack, but I mean, you know, in many ways he's been hamstrung by, like, you know, the money that he has, or more to the point, doesn't have to spend. But, like, I mean, I don't know, from what I saw of the game yesterday, I thought Chelsea were kind of good enough value for the win. Like, they went kind of 2-0 up, and then they kind of, like, typical Benitez style is kind of like, what we have, we hold, and, like, fair enough, well organised, but they're not really going to be very entertaining, you know.
On the point there, Chris Reddy has sent us in a message asking what manager's next in the firing line.
I would have to say, I'm thinking Mike Ashley at Newcastle is regretting giving Alan Pardew an 8-year contract, but he
probably would want to pick as well.
Saving him, no. The 8-year contract, he's going to have to pay him out if he sacks him.
Yeah.
So other than him, I'd think Lambert. I think Villa are shocking.
Villa are shocking at the minute. Yeah. Well, I suppose it's a big one tomorrow night against Bradford, isn't it? If they can turn over the 2 goals.
Down, though. Yeah.
I think, to be honest, they'd be better off getting knocked out.
Ton of great managers, but Guardiola to Bayern Munich, that's really killed the hopes of a lot of English clubs, Man City and Chelsea signing.
Like, I mean, I think a lot of people were saying over the weekend when it was announced that Guardiola is going to Bayern Munich, they were saying, but like, me, why isn't he going to England? Who are Bayern Munich? And I heard some people say they're in a one-team league, which is just ridiculous. Like, and I mean, like, for example, their Dr. Muller, like everybody from Usain Bolt, I heard Shay Given says that he goes to him to get his injuries sorted out, and like, I mean, that's their attitude. Like, everything from the top down is just, the infrastructure is just fantastic. Like, and like just what you said there about Atkins getting sacked there at Southampton, it's like, it's the culture in England. It's like, okay, a couple of games don't go your way and you're gone. Like, whereas at least, you know, Guardiola knows at Munich he's going to get some little bit of time, like, especially with the name that he has, you know. So like,
also Celtic had a great win at the weekend, just pushing over quickly 4-1 against Hearts. They seem to be doing better since they've got a bit of time out from the Champions League, do you think, Kev?
Yeah.
Do you follow the Scottish football?
Bits and pieces, but especially it's hard this year. It's a one-horse race, really.
Definitely.
You know, it's.
Yeah, Celtic were always going to coast it once they came back from once the Champions League. Once they didn't have the big block of Champions League every second week, so like I mean, there's only one team's going to win that. Like,
just going to have a look at the League of Ireland, lads. There's a few transfers happening at the minute. I know the season has kicked off, but the Heineken Cup is just around the corner. Mac Roster has gone to Dundalk. Is that a surprise?
Certainly, yeah, I think he might have been attracted though, maybe by Stephen Kenny. I don't know. I think Kenny will probably be. I personally would respect him as a manager. I don't think he got enough time with Shamrock Rovers, and I'm sure he'll be looking to bring in a few more big name signings. And so, like, it's a bit of a surprise, but I think certainly Roster would have been attracted by Kenny. I reckon.
This one's definitely going to you anyway, Kevin, because I'm not taking any more grief off the Cork City fans. A lot of people on about Vinny O'Sullivan's gone back to Waterford. Graham CCFC wrote in. He asked, why didn't Cork City do more to keep hold of last year's top scorer when there was a clear lack of goals in the squad?
To be honest, I'm not surprised. Like, Vinny Sullivan, he's a worker, but was he ever a great goal scorer? And is he going to have another season like that again? You know, for apparently he was looking for more money, so is he worth it? Like, they've got a good signing in Kavanagh there. I think he's a good quality player.
I don't know if you're top scorer as well. You'd look for more money. I know you would, George.
Well, Paddy Carless 10 said the same. Said Vinny's a quality signing. Very surprised they got him. It's obviously a Waterford fan. Maybe it is like it maybe would have been worth the while another year of Vinny. What do you think? I think that number 10 jersey's cursed since I left it.
Yeah, there's been a few since you.
But what do you think, though? It's a strange one. Also, Danny Venture, the Sligo captain, has resigned. That's a big coup for them.
Yeah.
And David O'Leary has decided to stay with Limerick as well. There's a lot of hope for him. He's only 20-year-old. There seems to be a lot of potential for him as well. Have you come across him yet, or are you that big time in Cork City? No, you don't watch the first division games?
We don't watch that now anymore. We'll have to have a look at them soon. Now we got them the first game of the season away, but I think Limerick will be strong this year. Now, you know, they got a lot of money, so.
James, just a quick one. We have another message in from John Dower. He said, one team league, Bayern Munich, haven't won the championship in 4 years.
Oh, I agree totally. Like I was saying that it was a ridiculous statement, but that's what you get from, like, I mean, the Sky Sports guys. It's all Premier League. I agree. Like, I mean, but like, I suppose my point was that, like, I mean, for Guardiola to choose Bayern Munich, like, it was a much more rational option than almost any club in England. That's pretty much all I was saying, you know.
Keep your messages coming in on Twitter at FitTV or on Facebook. We're just going to go over quickly before we have the Frankie Sheehan interview about the Ryder Cup. Paul McGinley, the first Irish captain of a Ryder Cup team. Looked like Rory had a lot of say in that. He was out on his Twitter and speaking out publicly.
It just shows, like, I mean, I would personally think that, like, I mean, I would probably have maybe given it to somebody like Darren Clark. Like, he has, you know, he's won a major, he's more experienced right at the very, very top. But at the same time, the Ryder Cup would probably kind of mean more to somebody like McGinley. Like, at this, he would have, like, it was 2002, he sank the winning putt for Europe. So, like, and he's been like assistant Ryder Cup captain for, I think, the last 2 or 3 tournaments. So it obviously mean kind of a lot to him. So it's good to see anyway for us Irishman.
Kev, there's a lot of thought of Jim McGuinness is going to be involved. He seems to be everywhere at the minute.
He's everywhere, yeah. He's well wanted man. He's obviously good at what he does. You know, it's I actually watched that Jimmy's Winning Matches documentary recently. He's very thorough, you know, in what he does. He's very prepared. So can only be another good thing.
Great stuff. Lads, thank you. The Frankie Sheehan interview is going to come now, so I'd just like to thank the boys, James and Kevin. We're going to speak to Frankie now about his new business, frontrow.ie. It's a fantastic agency. I definitely recommend you look at it. And here comes the interview with Frankie. I hope everyone enjoys it, and thank you for watching. Hello and welcome to the G10 Sports Show on FEC-TV. Tonight we're going to speak to none other than Frankie Sheehan, the Munster legend and Ireland legend. Welcome to the show, Frankie.
Thank you very much, George, and in particular for those very kind words there.
Exciting week, or weekend it was, with the Heineken Cup, Frankie. I know you were busy working away with Sky and the whole lot. How did the weekend go for you? Good on a Munster note, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, I think that's what makes the Heineken Cup so special, the fact that it it's such a complicated system for the layman when you look at it, but all the different permutations adds to the excitement. And if people were following it, they could see that if Leinster, they had to get a bonus point against Exeter on Saturday night, and it was a cracking game of rugby. Everyone was thinking about how Leinster were going to take it to Exeter, but Exeter had different ideas and nearly went on to win that match. But it was a cracking game, and Leinster really gave it a great shot. But of course, then we saw Ulster, who were looking for their home draw. They had their first away win ever down in Castra, which was a great win for them. And then, of course, the Munster game. Munster knew going into the game yesterday that it was totally in their hands whether they qualified or not, and they needed to win with a bonus point try, and they went out. And I was up there, I was doing the commentating with Sky, and the atmosphere was as good now as I can remember it in a long, long time. Munster haven't really hit the heights, I suppose, of recent years, and it was incredible, really. The crowd really got behind the team. There was controversy early on, of course. Batu, the back row for Racing Metro, stuck his knee there, and one of the lads on their head, I think inadvertently, of course. But he got sent off within 5 minutes, so they were on the back foot straight away. But credit to them, they stuck to their task, and Munster had 3 tries before half time, so people were wondering when it would come, and of course it came in the second half. They got 5 tries. Simon Zebo getting a hat trick. It was a great day, and Munster, of course, then by virtue of doing that, of course, knocked Leinster off the second best qualifying slot. So Leinster are now out, and Munster are in. So it was an absolutely great day.
Do you think the lads are happy to get one over Leinster?
Well, the interesting thing now, George, is that they're meeting up. A lot of the international guys were driving up last night to Dublin to meet up, and some of these guys could be rooming with their Leinster colleagues. And I was talking to a few of them, and we were kind of reminiscing about the times when I was involved in that camp, and the falseness that was involved. If Leinster did well, you'd be saying, "Oh, well done in the match, yeah, fair play to you,"
Yeah.
But you couldn't be telling more lies. You were kind of, or if they lost, you were, hard luck there, and you'd be very sympathetic, and vice versa. We'd have the crack now with the Leinster guys still, so I'm sure there was going to be a bit of crack there last night when they got up there.
Zebo was on fire, wasn't he? I keep listening on Sky, watching in the games. They really think he's one of those players that has a lot more to offer. But yesterday, he really showed what he's made of, didn't he?
He did. I mean, I think the first try, he was more or less giving the ball over the line. The second one, it was a great try. It was a really good individual try. And the third one, he's a great finisher, and he has this air of confidence about him, just bordering on cockiness, arrogance, a bit like your man George O'Callaghan used to play with Cork City. I don't know if you remember him, but
he's never that good.
He has it. But he has that type of X factor, which, I suppose, being involved in that management business myself, you're always looking to sell to clients that this guy has something special, and the way he goes out and he has that confidence and the way he can back it up at times is great. So it was a great day for him and his family.
When you watch these games, Frankie, do you miss not playing, or has the media kind of softened the blow a bit?
It does, definitely, being involved. I mean, you're going up to Limerick and you're kind of getting a few bob for actually commenting and talking about it. I don't fall into the trap of saying I'm working because it's a labour of love and I love it. But certainly when they come out of the tunnel and you hear the crowd roar, there is something special about that nothing will ever replace. So you'd miss that side of it desperately, in every game. But there are other sides that you just wouldn't miss. I mean, you think of the day-to-day training and having to go up to Dublin now, and the first thing I'm sure Declan Kidney would be saying to them this morning is, look, the Heineken Cup now is finished, let's move on. And they're probably, knocking lumps out of each other underneath some sort of rooking net that you have to be about 2 feet off the ground, and you get a belt of a stick if you're not, So it's those parts I certainly don't miss. But yeah, I mean, I adored the game of rugby. I just loved it from the off when I first started playing it, and that whole collision side of it, the confrontation side of it. So I don't think that'll ever go away.
Sky Sports have really taken it to a new level, haven't they, with the rugby and the Heineken Cup? The coverage now, you can watch all the games on a Sunday, literally the way the Premiership is. It's brilliant, isn't it?
They do it extremely well, Sky. They have, they obviously get the best people involved, including myself. They go out of their way, but they're a good crowd to work for. They're very professional. They're very, they're commercial. They're different to other stations. They're about making money. They're about generating revenue, and they go up and they do it well. You know, interestingly, I went into the Sky Truck after the match yesterday, and I walked into the Sky Truck, and all the screens were everywhere, and I saw one of the producers inside was a bit pale in the face, and he said, you missed that there, and I said, what? He said, the fellow who got sent off, the guy back two, started hammering on the door, and they opened it, and he said, I want to see the video, I want to see the video. And barged his way in there, so they didn't know what to do, so they eventually just showed it to him anyway, and he calmed down, he was fine afterwards. But yeah, it was an interesting one. But no, they're a good crowd, lovely bunch of guys, and as I say, like it's they look after you very, very well.
Last week when you were commentating and O'Gara flicked out and kicked your man, do you be panicking when you're commentating and think, oh, I don't want to get him in trouble here, no, I've got to cover his ass somewhere? Do you be backtracking?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I like the way you've warmed me up to this one anyway. and by the way, if he's watching this, it wasn't a kick, it was called a trip, I think, was it?
Yeah.
It was the most interesting trip I ever saw anyway, but it did extremely well to get 1 week. Yeah, I mean, that definitely, I mean, when that happened, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say here? And that is actually the beauty about CoCom. If you're sitting in a studio, it's a lot easier than a CoCom, because the studio, you've all the time in the world to think about what words you're going to do. But I mean, if Donegal O'Callaghan drop kicks Leo Cullen in the head, the commentators, oh my God, look at that, Frankie, what do you think of that? And you have to be there, and it's instant, and it's in the moment. So I think I said something along the lines of, oh yeah, looks like Ronan had a bit of a rush of blood for that one, you know. So I don't know, I haven't got a phone call yet off him, so it mightn't have been too bad anyway.
I spoke to Tony Cascarino recently, and he said something negative about Frank Lampard, and he said a couple of days later Frank Lampard rang him up giving out saying, oh, you shouldn't be speaking like this about me. Do you ever come across anyone like that having a go at you over things you say on this?
I certainly have, and you know, I don't mind. I guess I don't mind somebody having a go. When I was there as a player, there was definitely times you're very, very sensitive, and I understand it. The problem is that 90%, 95% of the things that most analysts will say are very, very positive, but you'll only hear back off the 5% of things that aren't. And in fairness, though, to Lampard in that particular instance, for him to pick up the phone and be direct with Cascarino, there's, you know, I think that there's a respect in that too. It's the other fella who goes moaning about it in the background and not to your face. That's the problem, really. But I mean, you have to. I mean, people, I think when they retire, they realise that, and I've certainly realised that, you know, if I don't give an opinion, if I don't give a valid opinion, I'm not going to be asked back by Sky or RT. You know what I mean? There's only so much you can talk guys up, but you gotta be balanced, and you gotta call it the way it is. And if it means that a guy didn't play a good game, and I manage some guys as well, and sometimes I have to come out and say he did that wrong or that was a bad play, and that's just part of it. And I explain that to these guys. So, and they understand it, but I can understand the sensitivity from being on both sides of it.
I really enjoy listening to you on the media, Frankie, but one of the main reasons I have you on today is your website, frontrow.ie. I've looked it up recently, been really impressed with what you're trying to do for the players. Can you shed a bit of light for people watching what you're doing for the lads in the rugby community? And I even seen Ruby Walsh's name down along the names of sports people we have.
Yeah, we have a sports management, athlete management arm to that. So mostly rugby players, we look after their A to Z of rugby playing, but we're always looking for other opportunities in different sports, and we look after all their commercial needs and every bit of the management side of it. We also have a sponsorship side, a marketing side, so anything from hospitality, sponsorship activation, in a lot of the sporting, rugby and all that side of things, we do a lot of that. And also then a celebrity sourcing. So if you want a celebrity for your product launch, your event, your speaking engagement, we've got an extended list of over 1,000 people there that we can get. So it's great. You know, we're doing a lot of business with you know, a lot of the banks, a lot of big brands like Vodafone, Guinness, and all these guys. So it's great. You know, we're getting a lot of repeat business, a lot of people coming back, and again, it's a type of work that I really enjoy. So it's a nice labour of love again.
I get a lot of stick on my show because I'm always looking for the welfare of the soccer players in Ireland at the minute, because I feel really that, you know, they're really struggling and they need some help. It looks like on the rugby side of things it's a lot different. People seem to be a lot more clued in, and there's a lot of help there for the younger players. Would I be right in saying that?
Well, I wouldn't be an expert in the soccer side of it in Ireland, but I do know in the rugby side of it. I mean, you can bring the there is a facility there. I know, I'm not sure in the soccer, but in the rugby there's an IRUPA, which is the Irish Rugby Union Players Association, and these guys are funded. They're self-funded, but they're also funded by the IRFU, and they have facilities and they have personnel involved in that organisation to help you to plan for your future as well, and as well some of the agencies are taking it more themselves now to make sure that their guys are well looked after. Certainly with us in Front Row, we would be looking to get these guys involved in industry, in a work experience, even capacity, prior to their retirement at that level. So, but a lot of it goes back to the player themselves. I mean, if I had my time back, and you know yourself, George, you've been in the professional game for a long time. I mean, there's so much dead time there. There's so much time where what you're doing here, you're presenting, and you're doing a good job of it, by the way.
Thanks, Frankie.
But like, there's times that you were going through an airport that you could have been reading a book on something, or you could have been doing a little course on something, to working on a little diploma and upskilling all yourselves and all the time. And I feel that players both in rugby and soccer should be using that time. It's invaluable time. But I mean, how many times are you just there watching a movie or playing a hand of cards or just sipping a cup of coffee? I think you can do both. You can do a bit of that, but also to be conscious of making an effort to what you want to do eventually.
Looking at it from the soccer world, Frankie, I've come across a lot of dodgy agents in my time. A couple of times I've had agents looking for 10 grand that sent me for a trial, things like that when I was at Ipswich. Is there that kind of dodgy agents in rugby, or is there a ruling or whatever way they cope with it?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there is definitely some like that. I'm a member of I'm an RFU, which is a rugby, the English Rugby Football Union registered agency, and they do put pretty good regulation in place, and I think it's a very good idea, and we're trying to replicate it here in Ireland as well, because I haven't seen that. There's fees that are pretty standard in the industry, but what bugs me in the rugby industry certainly is that you have an agent who's looking after a guy's contract, who is initially does it because he is a friend of the family, or just does it as a favour. He might be an accountant or a solicitor, but they don't have the relevant context for when, for example, if George O'Callaghan is great and he goes up through the ranks with Cork City, but then Cork City or George don't want each other anymore, the next level for that guy, and some of these agents don't have the relevant context in the UK or France or further afield or wherever it is, and what happens in rugby, and I've seen it happen a lot of times, these guys fall out of the professional game because they lose time and their name doesn't get put out there, and they fall away. So I'd be very conscious of that, and plus, the other thing you mentioned earlier was the preparation for life after sport and all that, and I think an agent has a responsibility there to make sure that their guys are being looked after and they're doing all the right things, and to give the feedback that's not necessarily always positive. It might be a bit of a kick up the arse every so often, that you need to start doing this, or you need to start doing that, but not just blowing smoke up their arse all the time.
I've been in a couple of scrapes in my time, Frankie. Is there any time a situation?
Have you?
Yeah, a little couple, one or two. Is there ever a situation?
I'm surprised at that.
Is there ever a situation where you get a call from a player at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and go, Frankie, I'm in trouble here, you need to come bail me out of the bridewell or something?
No, I've never got one at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I've made a phone call around a Christmas Eve to a player after hearing something back from a media, a colleague that I have. Talk to this guy, he needs to talk to XYZ, and sort of it's worked the other way around. But it's not, I suppose a lot of the guys we have, I would give that service. I suppose being through the mill myself in rugby terms, and I've probably had every up, down and turnaround that you could have in rugby, from on the field and off the field. I had different things that in the disciplinary side of things. So it's a case of young players will make mistakes. I guess you don't mind making a mistake once you don't make the same mistake twice, and just having the cop on and the reason to be able to get out of that and save a bit of face as well. So that's where we'd come in as well, to try and help them. But it's thanks be to God, no, I haven't had too many of those phone calls anyway.
Frankie, just looking at the Heineken Cup before we finish up with you, who do you think is going to win it, and how do you think the Irish teams will progress in the next couple of rounds?
Well, from a Munster point of view, I think they couldn't have got a better draw away to Harlequins, and that's not taken from Harlequins. They're a very, very good side. Conor O'Shea has done a superb job with them. But here you have an opportunity of going over. It's only over in London. There's a lot of Irish over there, and you can be sure the Munster guys will get their hands on a lot of those tickets. I think it's 14,500. They've made a decision to have it in the Stoop as opposed to Twickenham, which I'm pretty astonished at, to be honest with you, from a commercial point of view. But I think that Munster have a great chance in that game, because you look at Paul O'Connell will be coming back around that time. You'll have O'Gara back. The ground will be harder. I think that'll suit their game a bit more. Ulster have a big game then against Saracens. So they're away to Saracens. If they can get through that game, they have a home semi-final. And of course, as we all know, the final is in the Aviva this year, which is a great card from an Irish point of view. To answer your question, who do I think will win it? If I had to make a decision today and now, I would be saying Claremont. I think these guys I've played against them over the years. They've lost something like 10 French league finals over the years, and they've only started winning. They won their first final there a couple of years ago. So for me, they're a team, and they've made it very open and public that they want to win the Heineken Cup this year. They beat the Leinster, the Heineken Cup champions, back-to-back this year. They are certainly the team to beat right now, but who knows, Ulster may have a chance if they can get through the quarter-final.
We know a lot of sensitive players, Frankie. I don't know if I get away with asking this one, but who would you have in your team, Sexton or O'Gara?
Goodbye.
I know you don't have to answer that one.
Well, you know, they're two very good players. And
if I was you, I wouldn't answer it, because you know what Ronan's going to be like. No matter what you say, he's not going to be happy.
Of course, I'm going to pick Ronan. Ronan's my pal.
Frankie, thanks for coming on the show today. For everyone to get on your website, frontrow.ie. It's a fantastic website, and no doubt no better man looking after somebody than Frankie Sheehan. Which is a thank you from all of us here on Effect TV for coming on. Cheers, fella.
Great stuff. Thanks, Georgie. Cheers. Lovely to
Thanks, Frankie. So that's the show tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can get us on at Effect TV on Twitter and also on the Facebook. Join us again next week for more of the top guests in Irish sport.